Hello, beautiful souls. Please let me know in the comments if you can't hear me or if there are any sound differences. As you can see, I have a new microphone that I'm testing out. And so hopefully it sounds good. I've tested it, but if you have any problems or if it sounds weird, please let me know. So today I'm coming to you in a different format. As you can see, I'm recording from my phone, which is not something I always do. And I am in a new location. I've been in a new location for a while, but I haven't really been recording as much here. But I kind of wanted to come to you and speak to you about something very personal. And well, I guess I'll just get right to it. So, if you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that I run a spiritual and wellness business. You know that I do coaching, both business and spiritual coaching. Um, Business coaching for spiritual and wellness businesses only, of course. And then you know that I also do a lot of like energy work and things like that. And I really focus on wellness and holistic wellness at that. But I don't always present myself that way. And that's what I want to come and talk to you all about. And I want to talk to you about why and what caused that shift in how I present myself and how I do business. And when I say how I do business, I don't mean actual business. I mean how I go about my everyday life. Um, and I and I want to talk about why that's so significant, especially from some of the things that I've been talking about lately. So, for me, the spiritual side is probably the bigger side of my business. It's the wellness side. Yes, it is big and it is a really big focus for me. And when I say wellness, I mean overall wellness, and that includes the spiritual side. But I would say most of the work that I do is on the spiritual side. Most of the people that I work with are more spiritual people than just necessarily wellness people. I do actually work with both. I do collaborations with people in wellness, people in the medical field, people in spiritual fields, but I would say I work mostly with people in spiritual modalities. But I don't present myself that way and I haven't in the past. And I don't necessarily market myself that way. And it's not because I'm embarrassed about what I do, and it's not because I it's because I feel like even though I know what I do, I feel like people look at me and I don't fit the mold of what media portrays as a spiritual person. And I think that a lot of times that it has impacted me. And I think that I kind of carried that with me. And I think that was impacting not only how I present myself, but also how I help others. And I recently met someone in my life that really made me change the way I see things because this individual is very spiritual, but they don't ever talk about it. They kind of keep it to themselves. We have really deep conversations about spirituality and what our thoughts are, what our beliefs are, but they don't ever have those type of conversations with other people. And we both were talking about how it's because of how the world perceives you and the professionalism that you want to portray. When I say I run a wellness business, people are always on board. When I say I run a spiritual and wellness business, people are like, oh, you mean like that woo woo stuff? And I used to be really offended by that. And I used to get really upset. And I used to always think that means that I think they're not going to take me seriously. But I have come to the conclusion, or I should say the realization, that that doesn't matter because those are not my people. Those are not the people that I need to work with. Those are not the people that I'm here for, that I'm serving, that I'm helping. And those are not the people that I'm meant to connect with. But I really wanted to just talk about how being a woman of color, being a brown woman, being having a background where, you know, people assume that it's witchcraft, and not saying that witchcraft is bad because I don't think that witchcraft is, and I don't look at it as a negative thing either. I think everybody has their own beliefs and their own practices, and I think that those practices are built in our heritage and our culture, and that is what we carry with us. And that is what we are supposed to pass down. That is how we heal people. That is part of the healing process. These are, if you think about just holistic practices in general, these are practices that have been carried down for generations and generations. Hold on a second. Sorry, I had a something going off there, a little alarm, but these are practices that have been passed down for thousands of years, and these are practices that have worked for thousands of years. And we tend to lean in more toward modern day and Western, modalities and healing. But I personally believe there is validity in both, in traditional healing modalities and Western healing modalities. But I also believe that a lot of how we moved away from those other traditions is that a lot of it is built in personal beliefs and spirituality. And I think it's hard for people sometimes to marry the two or to disconnect the two and be able to see the healing without seeing the spirituality. And then they just assume because the spirituality is attached that it must be something not good or it must be something that doesn't work because it's attached to a spiritual belief that they don't believe in. And I just don't think that's the case. And meeting this person really made me step into the spiritual side because I the person always called me to the carpet. And it's kind of funny because they were kind of scared to talk about their beliefs too, especially within their family dynamic. They come from a very, I would say, Western culture type of tradition. And, their family goes to church and they are kind of more, they're a little more, I guess, if we want to say woo woo. Again, I'm not really big on that word, but they're a little more woo woo, a little more spiritual. And they're always in this walking on eggshells type of energy when they're with their family because they don't want their family to judge them. They don't want their family to have a negative view of them. But when they're not with them, they're a totally different person. And so they kind of called me out and I kind of called them out. And then we were kind of thinking about how we present ourselves. And they pointed out that I also do the same thing in my business, that I don't talk about the spiritual side, even though that is where I do the most work. And I would dare to say that is where I make the biggest difference. My spiritual coaching, and that spiritual side, that is where I feel like I have the largest impact. And I think a lot of it comes from, first off, just being a woman of color and being in this space of when I say that, people automatically assume that I'm doing something negative, that I must be putting spells on people and hexing people and cursing people when I don't really do that type of stuff. I I I work a lot with energy. I do pray a lot. I do have some beliefs that I would say are definitely not Western or conventional, but that doesn't mean that I'm out here doing something negative. And I think that we need to all give space for ourselves and give ourselves a little bit of grace to just be who we really are and speak up for who we really are and really highlight those parts of our life. So, with that said, I just wanted to get on for a quick moment, kind of talk about that. But with that said, you will be seeing more of the spiritual content on the channel moving forward. You will be seeing more of that spiritual content in the business. And I don't want you to feel like it's something new, something trendy. It's something that I've been doing from the beginning. As a matter of fact, my business started off as a spiritual business. I started off, well, I wouldn't necessarily just say spiritual business. It started off very woo woo. It started off with me doing readings and me doing spiritual coaching and spiritual work. And then it kind of evolved to the Reiki, adding the Reiki, which I dare to say is probably still considered very woo woo. And then it started adding in the business aspects and all the other things. And so I don't want you to feel like, oh, she's suddenly doing all of this stuff. And I don't want you to question yourself for being here because you were definitely here for a reason. You definitely found me for a reason. And I encourage you to look in yourself and see if you are maybe hiding part of yourself from the world, whether it is your spiritual beliefs, your personal beliefs, or anything. Like, are you hiding something about yourself from the world because you want to be taken more seriously or you want to be perceived a certain way? And then, if you are, figure out why and then break through that barrier and move on and let the world see who you are in your full capacity. I will be posting hopefully a lot more. That is the goal. I'm feeling a lot more balanced. I was it's a little bit in the burnout, and you'll see more about that in my episode on burnout, um, which is coming soon. But I just wanted to get on here and talk about that. And I guess please leave me comments. Tell me about what you feel like you're hiding. Tell me about how you feel. Please engage. I love engagement. And I guess until next time, thank you for tuning into another episode. And remember that true wellness isn't just about the body, it's about nurturing your mind, body, heart, and spirit. So keep your energy high, your spirit bright, and your soul nourished. Stay vibrant and stay well.